How to make any woman desire you even if she's not interested at first. Psychology tricks. Confidence isn't loud, it's consistent. And in love, consistency beats chasing every single time. You think she doesn't see you? You think you're invisible? You think you already lost? But listen, that not interested moment is not the end. It's the starting line. Because when she's not impressed yet, you're free. Free from performing, free from begging for attention, free to build real value instead of trying to sell yourself like a discount. Before we go further, subscribe, because you didn't come here for cute lines or fairy tales. You came here because something needs to change, and this channel exists for that reason. Now let's talk about what really matters. You want her attention, you want her interest, you want her to choose you. But here's the truth, you're doing it backwards. Most men try to win her by pushing harder, texting more, proving more, explaining more. That doesn't create desire. That creates pressure. And pressure kills attraction. The power move is the opposite. Be calm, be clear, be grounded. Don't chase her attention. Build a life that doesn't depend on it. Don't try to convince her. Lead with standards. When a woman feels you're okay, whether she approves or not, something changes. Curiosity starts. Respect starts. Desire has room to grow, because the man who is not desperate is rare, and rarity is attractive. 1. Every single move you make, you're pushing her further away. Here's the hard truth. Most men don't want to hear, but desperately need to understand. Every extra move you make when a woman isn't interested, yet often pushes her farther away, not closer, and you feel it happening in real time. The slower replies, the shorter answers. The sense that you're trying harder while she's investing less, and that shrinking feeling inside you isn't attraction dying, it's self-respect leaking out, and that's exactly why this moment matters. Don't chase clarity from her when you haven't anchored clarity within yourself. Don't mistake effort for value. Be calm when everything in you wants to prove, explain, or impress. That is where desire actually begins. This isn't about cheap psychology tricks or copying lines from the internet. This isn't about pretending to be mysterious or acting aloof. This is about understanding female psychology at a level deeper than tactics, because attraction doesn't respond to pursuit, it responds to presence. Women don't fall in love with pressure, they fall in love with direction. They don't desire someone who is trying to convince them, they desire someone who is already convinced of his own path. You must understand this clearly. When you chase, you communicate that your life is empty enough to revolve around her reaction, and no amount of texting, explaining, or emotional availability can outweigh that signal. But when you slow down, when you stop trying to manage her feelings, when you stay rooted in your values, something shifts. Suddenly, you're no longer asking for interest. You're offering a world she can choose to step into or walk away from. That difference changes everything. This is where real psychology tricks come into play, not as manipulation, but as awareness. Female psychology responds to emotional safety paired with emotional tension, not chaos, not pressure, but grounded certainty. Be warm, not needy. Be interested, not invested too early. Be expressive, but not dependent on the outcome. That is how to fall in love actually works in the real world, not the fantasy version sold in movies. You must stop trying to win her over and start standing for something bigger than her approval. When a woman senses that you have standards, boundaries, and a life that moves forward whether she joins or not, her curiosity wakes up. Curiosity leads to engagement. Engagement leads to emotional connection. And emotional connection is where desire grows. Don't over-explain your intentions. Don't negotiate attraction. Don't rush intimacy to fill silence. Silence, when grounded, creates space, and space is where feelings develop. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of female psychology. Attraction needs room to breathe. When you crowd it with constant effort, it suffocates. When you give it structure without pressure, it expands. You must trust that who you are, when fully embodied, is enough. That means taking care of your body, your mind, your mission, and your emotional discipline. That means showing up relaxed, present, and unattached to outcomes, not because you don't care, but because you care about your life more. And paradoxically, That's what makes a woman care too. This isn't about withdrawing affection or playing cold. It's about offering attention from a place of abundance rather than lack. The moment you stop trying to pull her toward you and instead focus on walking forward with confidence, she either steps beside you or reveals she was never meant to. Either outcome is a win. That's the part most men miss. Desire isn't something you force. It's something you allow to surface by being steady, intentional, and self-directed. Use psychology tricks wisely, not to control her, but to master yourself. Understand female psychology not to exploit it, but to stop fighting it. Learn how to fall in love not by chasing feelings, but by creating the conditions where feelings grow naturally. Be patient, be grounded, be unapologetic about your standards. That is how interest turns into desire, hesitation turns into curiosity, and curiosity turns into connection, even when she wasn't interested at first. 2. The moment you try to convince someone of your value, you've already lost it. The moment you try to convince someone of your value, you've already lost it, and that sentence alone carries more truth than most advice men have been given their entire lives. See, you were taught wrong from the beginning. You were taught to pursue harder when interest isn't there, to prove your worth with effort, to explain yourself, to showcase credentials, to show her why you deserve a chance. And that sounds logical on the surface, but it quietly pulls you into a trap that almost no one warns you about. Because value does not argue. Value does not campaign. Value does not chase approval. It simply exists, steady and unquestioned, and people either recognize it or they don't. The more you try to convince a woman of your value, the more you signal that you're unsure of it yourself, and uncertainty is the fastest way to drain attraction before it even has room to form. Don't misunderstand us. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. This isn't about acting superior or pretending you don't care. This is about understanding how attraction actually works and why female psychology responds to presence, not persuasion. When you're trying to convince her, you're placing her in the role of judge and yourself in the role of applicant. That dynamic alone makes desire almost impossible. Be honest with yourself. Have you ever deeply wanted something that needed to explain why it mattered? Of course not. The things we desire most don't plead their case. They stand there, confident, grounded, and available, and we feel drawn in without being told why. That is how attraction operates, and that is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks men ignore. Be clear about this. A high-value man doesn't rush to be chosen. He chooses his direction first. He builds a life, a rhythm, a sense of self that doesn't depend on one person's reaction. That doesn't mean he lacks emotion. It means his emotions don't control his behavior. And that calm certainty is felt immediately. Women sense it not through words, but through tone, timing, and restraint. When you stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your pace, stop proving your intentions, something shifts. The pressure disappears. The energy changes. And suddenly, instead of trying to attract women, you notice women leaning in to understand you. Don't chase interest that hasn't been offered. Don't overextend attention hoping it will be rewarded. Be responsive, not reactive. Be warm, not eager. That is masculine energy at its healthiest, not forceful, not loud, but stable and self-directed. This is where many men get confused. They think attraction comes from doing more. In reality, attraction often grows when you do less, but do it with intention. Less talking, more presence. Less explaining, more direction. Less proving, more living. That is how to attract women without pushing them away. You must also understand this. Female psychology is deeply responsive to emotional contrast. If everything is available immediately, nothing feels valuable. If every thought is shared, nothing feels intriguing. If every moment is filled, there's no space for curiosity. And curiosity is the doorway to desire. When you create space by being engaged in your own life, your own mission, your own growth, you're not withdrawing, you're inviting. You're saying, "This is my world. You're welcome to step into it, but I won't shrink it to keep you." That message alone does more than any line, tactic, or performance. Don't try to manufacture attraction with tricks alone. Psychology tricks only work when they're aligned with who you actually are. Otherwise, they collapse under pressure. Be consistent. Be grounded. Be selective with your energy. That consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of how to fall in love for most women, especially later in life when experiences have taught them to look past surface charm. A man who knows where he's going and doesn't rush emotional outcomes feels safe and compelling at the same time. That balance is rare, and rarity creates value. You must also let go of the fear of losing her interest. That fear is what drives over-texting, over-explaining, and emotional overinvestment too early. Ironically, the less afraid you are of losing her, the more likely she is to feel drawn toward you. Not because you don't care, but because you trust yourself enough to know you'll be fine either way. That inner stability is the quiet signal of a high-value man, and it's felt long before it's understood. So remember this. Don't convince. Don't perform. Don't plead your case. Be present. Be disciplined. Be rooted in your own life. Let your actions speak quietly and consistently. Value doesn't argue. It doesn't explain itself. It simply exists. And when you live that truth, you stop chasing desire and start creating the conditions where desire naturally grows. That is real masculine energy. That is how to attract women without forcing outcomes. And that is how to fall in love without losing yourself in the process. If this hit you right between the eyes, don't scroll past it. Drop a comment right now and say, I don't chase value. I am the value. Like this video, subscribe for more unshakable psychology and real-world wisdom, and remind yourself every day, the moment you stop proving, people start noticing. 3. What happens when you chase? When men ask how to create desire where there was none at first, the answer is rarely about tricks and never about chasing harder, because chasing does one thing with ruthless consistency. It strips away mystery, self-respect, and emotional gravity, turning a man into a known quantity, a safe presence, a background figure who is appreciated but not deeply felt. And this is not opinion. It is human psychology, because when you chase, you announce that your time is unlimited, your standards are flexible, and your life can be rearranged around another person's attention. And once that signal is sent, desire has no room to breathe. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And a man who thinks he must pursue to be chosen slowly dyes himself in need rather than purpose, and modern life makes this mistake easier than ever, because texts are instant, social media is constant, and availability can be demonstrated every hour of the day. But desire does not grow in certainty. It grows in contrast, in absence, in the sense that someone has a full life that does not orbit around approval, which is why Old Stoic wisdom has always warned against placing your peace in external hands. Because the moment you do, you lose leverage over your own emotions. When you chase, you remove all tension, all uncertainty, all curiosity. You reveal the entire map before the journey begins, and the mind stops exploring once it believes there is nothing left to discover. And this is why people value what they earn rather than what is freely handed to them, not because they are cruel, but because effort creates meaning, and meaning creates attachment. The man who is always available, always agreeable, always reshaping himself to fit perceived expectations may be polite. He may be likable, but he becomes interchangeable, and attraction never grows where interchangeability lives, which is why the instruction is simple but demanding. Stop orienting your behavior around reaction and start orienting it around direction, because desire is a byproduct of a life that is already moving somewhere. Seneca warned, "He who is brave is free," and bravery in modern dating is not loud or forceful. It is the quiet discipline of not overinvesting before investment is returned, not explaining yourself excessively, not offering unlimited access to your time and attention, because when a woman senses that your presence is earned rather than guaranteed, curiosity activates, respect follows, and desire has room to emerge naturally. This is not about manipulation or coldness. It is about alignment, about becoming a man whose schedule, values, and emotional stability are not negotiable, because people feel safest and most intrigued around those who are grounded in themselves. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom meets modern psychology, where Stoicism Win is not a slogan but a practice, where an iron mind replaces reactive behavior, and where you understand that attraction is not created by pursuit, but by polarity between two full individuals. The instruction remains the same across centuries. Build yourself first, guard your time, choose presence over performance, and let interest meet you halfway. Because when you stop chasing, you stop proving, and when you stop proving, you start being evaluated on who you are rather than how much you give. Repeat this until it settles into your bones. Desire grows in space. Respect grows in consistency, and confidence grows when your sense of worth is self-generated. And this is why men who master their inner world often notice a shift without saying a word, because the energy changes before the behavior does. The tone changes before the outcome does, and people respond to what is felt more than what is explained. Live this, and you will see that attraction is not something you force. It is something you allow by standing firmly in your own life. Guided by Old Stoic. Wisdom, reinforced by an iron mind, and lived daily as Stoicism win in action. 4. The man she can't stop thinking about. Here's the truth most men never hear, and once you understand it, everything changes, because the man she can't stop thinking about is never the one who tries the hardest, never the one who explains himself endlessly, never the one who reshapes his life to fit her moods, and never the one who begs for attention. Let's flip the frame and talk about him, the man who quietly stays in her mind long after the conversation ends. He is not perfect. He is not flawless. He doesn't rely on being the most handsome, the funniest, or the wealthiest in the room, and that is exactly why he stands out. He has boundaries, real boundaries, the kind that are lived, not announced. Don't confuse boundaries with coldness. Don't confuse distance with indifference. Be clear about this. His boundaries come from self-respect, not fear. He says no without apologizing. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't justify his standards. That is confidence in action. When something doesn't align with who he is or where he's going, he calmly steps away. No drama. No speeches. No chasing. That is where psychology tricks quietly begin to work. Not because he's trying to control anything, but because he refuses to abandon himself for approval. He doesn't need her validation to feel complete, and that creates tension in female psychology, the kind that sparks curiosity instead of comfort. Be honest with yourself. Predictability feels safe, but mystery feels alive. When a man exists independently of a woman's opinion, when his sense of worth doesn't rise or fall based on her reactions, something subtle happens inside her mind. She can't fully read him. She can't easily categorize him. She can't press a button and get a guaranteed response. And that uncertainty is not chaos, it is intrigue. That is how to fall in love without forcing anything, because desire grows in a space where control ends. Don't flood her with compliments. Don't overinvest before interest is earned. Be present, but not permanently available. That is not a tactic, that is alignment. He chooses her, but he doesn't need her. He enjoys her, but he doesn't depend on her. That difference changes everything. When he walks away from situations that don't serve him, he sends a powerful signal without saying a word. He is not here to be managed, fixed, or molded. He is already whole. And that wholeness is rare. That wholeness is attractive. That wholeness activates female psychology in a way no rehearsed line ever could. She feels a beautiful problem forming inside her. She can't control him. She can't rush him. She can't pull him closer by withdrawing attention because he is already centered. And the mind always leans toward what it cannot easily possess. Be clear about this. Desire is not created by giving more. Desire is created by being more. Not louder, not flashier, more grounded, more consistent, more rooted in self-respect. That is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks in modern dating. The man she can't stop thinking about is not trying to be interesting. He is interested in his life. He has purpose beyond romance. He has values that don't bend under pressure. He doesn't disappear to create anxiety, but he doesn't linger where he's not valued either. That balance is powerful. Be that man. Don't audition for affection. Don't negotiate attraction. Attraction responds to clarity. It responds to presence. It responds to a man who is comfortable with silence and unafraid of loss. Because here is the paradox. The less you try to make her want you, the more space you give desire to grow naturally. This is how to fall in love in a way that lasts, not through manipulation, but through self-alignment. When a man is willing to walk away, not as a threat, but as a truth, it reshapes how she sees him. Suddenly, his attention feels valuable. Suddenly, his presence feels earned. Suddenly, his words carry weight. That is not because he played a game. It is because he refused to abandon his standards. Be decisive. Be calm. Be steady. Don't perform strength. Live it. Don't explain your worth. Demonstrate it through your actions, your choices, your boundaries. That is what keeps you on her mind. Not because you chased. Not because you convinced. But because you stood firmly in who you are. This is the quiet core of psychology tricks that actually work. This is female psychology responding to authenticity, not pressure. This is how to fall in love without losing yourself, and once you understand this, you stop trying to make any woman desire you, and instead, you become the kind of man desire naturally moves toward. 5. Attention is not the answer. Attention is not the answer, and this is where many good men quietly sabotage themselves without realizing it. Let's talk about attention for a moment, because you've been taught that giving more is the solution. More texts, more reassurance, more presence. You think sending a good morning message shows consistency. You think liking every post shows interest. You think responding instantly shows care. Don't misunderstand this. Caring is not the problem. Overinvesting is. Be honest with yourself. From her side, what she often experiences is not romance, but overwhelm. Not closeness, but pressure. Not warmth, but the subtle weight of expectation. Every message begins to carry an invisible question. Do you like me yet? Am I enough yet? Have I earned you yet? And even when you never say those words, she feels them. She feels the urgency behind the timing. She feels the emotional lean in your tone. She feels the need underneath the effort. That feeling does not inspire desire. It drains it, not because she is cruel, not because she enjoys withholding, but because neediness is unattractive in anyone at any time for any reason. Don't confuse attention with value. Attention is cheap. Everyone gives attention. Notifications, messages, comments, reactions, they are everywhere. Value is rare. Value is felt when your presence is not guaranteed. Be clear about this. A high-value man does not flood. He filters. He does not chase moments of connection. He creates a life that connection wants to be part of. When your attention is unlimited, it loses meaning. When it is intentional, it becomes powerful. That is one of the hardest lessons in male psychology, but it is essential if you want to attract women without forcing interest. You must understand that attraction grows in space, not saturation. Too much too soon collapses curiosity. It removes tension. It answers questions before they are even asked. Think about it from her perspective. When you respond instantly every time, when you are always available, when your day revolves around her replies, she does not feel chosen. She feels responsible. Responsible for your mood. Responsible for your hope. Responsible for your emotional state. That is not romantic energy. That is emotional labor. And emotional labor kills desire faster than silence ever could. Don't put her in the position of managing your feelings. Be responsible for yourself. That is masculine energy in its healthiest form. Calm, grounded, self-contained, not distant, not cold, simply steady. You must stop turning attention into a performance. Liking every post does not build attraction. It builds familiarity. Familiarity without depth leads to indifference. Texting nonstop does not build connection. It builds expectation. Expectation without mystery leads to boredom. Be intentional. Be selective. Be present when you show up. Then step back into your life. That rhythm creates intrigue. That rhythm signals confidence. That rhythm tells her you are a high-value man without ever saying it out loud. Here is the shift you need to make. Don't ask for attention. Create presence. Presence is felt, not demanded. Presence comes from a man who has purpose, direction, and standards. A man who enjoys her company but does not need her approval. A man who can walk away from his phone without anxiety. A man who is not measuring his worth by response time. That is the man women notice. That is the man they remember. That is how you attract women who are emotionally healthy and genuinely interested. Be careful with instant replies. Speed communicates priority. If she becomes your top priority before she has earned that position, the dynamic tilts. Attraction thrives on balance. You must allow interest to grow on both sides at the same pace. Don't rush intimacy. Don't force familiarity. Let things unfold. That patience is masculine energy expressed as discipline, not distance. Understand this clearly. Women are not drawn to attention. They are drawn to emotional stability. They are drawn to clarity. They are drawn to men who are comfortable with uncertainty. When you give attention as a way to reduce your own anxiety, it backfires. When you give attention as a choice, not a need, it lands differently. Same action, completely different energy. You must also recognize that pulling back is not a trick. It is alignment. If you are busy, be busy. If you are focused, stay focused. If you enjoy your life, don't pause it for validation. A high-value man does not rearrange his identity for access. He invites, he does not plead. He shares, he does not pour endlessly. That balance is what allows attraction to breathe. Let's be very clear. This is not about ignoring her. This is not about playing games. This is not about pretending you don't care. Don't do that. Be genuine. Be respectful. Be direct. But don't be excessive. Excess signals insecurity, even when intentions are pure. And insecurity is what pushes desire away. If you want to attract women who are truly interested, you must master restraint. Restraint in words. Restraint in timing. Restraint in emotional investment. That restraint does not make you less caring. It makes you more grounded. And grounded men are attractive because they feel safe, stable, and strong without trying to prove anything. So remember this. Attention is not the answer. Presence is. Need is not attractive. Self-respect is. Overgiving is not connection. Balance is. Become the man who chooses when to give, not the man who gives to be chosen. That is masculine energy at its best. That is how attraction grows naturally. And that is how you stop chasing desire and start becoming the kind of man desire moves toward on its own. 6. You pull back, not as a strategy, but as a reclamation of yourself. You pull back, not as a tactic, not as a trick, not as some clever move designed to provoke a reaction, but as a reclamation of yourself, because a man who understands life understands this one unbreakable law: anything you chase controls you, and anything you respect begins with self-respect. So what do you do instead when interest isn't returned, when attention feels one-sided, when effort goes unnoticed, when you feel yourself shrinking into someone who waits, hopes, checks, and adjusts his entire emotional weather around another person's response time? You pull back, calmly, deliberately, without bitterness, without drama, without explanation, because value does not announce itself, and as Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You stop giving away your time like it is endless, because it is not, and you stop offering emotional access to someone who has not earned it, because access is a privilege, not a right, and you stop structuring your day around anticipation, replies, signals, and micro-validation, because that is how men lose their center in modern life, drowning in distractions, notifications, and false urgency, and instead you begin building your day around what actually strengthens you, your purpose, your craft, your health, your discipline, your growth, your peace, the things that remain when no one is watching. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom comes alive, because the Stoics never taught men to suppress desire. They taught men to master it, to command it, to decide where it belongs, and Epictetus said it clearly: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, which in modern terms means be willing to walk away from approval, be willing to be misunderstood, be willing to not chase, not explain, not justify, because the man who needs to be chosen has already surrendered power, while the man who chooses himself becomes magnetic without effort. And here is the shift most men never see coming. When you stop chasing, You stop being prey, you stop reacting, you stop orbiting, and you become something else entirely. You become a man on a path, and people, especially women, do not desire need. They sense it instantly. They feel it before words ever arrive. But they are drawn to direction, to grounded presence, to a man whose life is full even without them, because fullness is attractive, emptiness repels, and this is not theory. This is how attraction works in the real world of deadlines, stress, social media, aging, and emotional fatigue, where confidence is rare and self-command is gold. So your instruction is simple and non-negotiable. Reclaim your time, reclaim your energy, reclaim your standards. Do not announce your withdrawal, do. Not make speeches, do not posture, do not wait for results, because the act itself is the result. And this is where Stoicism Win becomes more than a phrase. It becomes a daily practice, because Stoicism Win is not about control over others. It is about control over yourself, about choosing long-term dignity over short-term attention, about developing an iron mind that does not bend under silence, distance, or uncertainty. And when your mind is iron, your behavior becomes calm. Your presence becomes steady. Your decisions become clean, and paradoxically, this is when interest often returns, not because you wanted it to, but because detachment changes the dynamic, because the moment you stop needing an outcome, you stop leaking energy. And energy is what people respond to, and even if nothing returns, you still win, because you are no longer smaller than your potential, you are no longer waiting to be validated, you are no longer outsourcing your emotional stability, and us. Seneca warned, "He who is brave is free," meaning the courage to step back, to refocus, to move forward without reassurance is the ultimate freedom in relationships and in life, especially for men navigating modern dating later in life. Where time matters more, peace matters more, and chaos is expensive, so you pull back not to manipulate, not to punish, not to provoke longing, but because your life deserves structure, momentum, and meaning, because your goals need your full attention, because your peace is not negotiable, and because every day you spend chasing what does not choose you is a day stolen from becoming who you could be. And this is the quiet power of Old Stoic wisdom repeated across centuries and proven again in today's world. Control what is yours, release what is not, walk your path, strengthen your iron mind, and let the rest reveal itself naturally. Because a man moving forward with clarity does not beg for desire, he awakens it, and even when he doesn't, he still stands undefeated, grounded, and whole, and that is how you master attraction, how you master life, and how Stoicism Win stops being content you listen to and becomes the way you live. If you felt this message, don't just nod and move on. This is the moment where most men hesitate, and that hesitation keeps them stuck. Pulling back isn't a trick. It's a decision. A decision to stop giving your time away, to stop orbiting someone else's attention, and to build your life around your purpose, your growth, your peace. That's when the shift happens. That's when you stop being prey and become a man on a path. Now make it real. Drop this in the comments to lock it in. I pull back to reclaim myself. I build my life around my purpose. Like the video, subscribe for more unshakable wisdom, and don't just watch the change. Be it. 7. Attraction is not logical. Attraction is not logical, and this is the truth most men never fully accept, because from the time you were young, you were taught that if you say the right things, do the right things, give enough effort, show enough intention, and prove enough value, then attraction should follow naturally. But that is not how attraction works in the real world, especially when it comes to female psychology. Because attraction does not live in the mind where logic, explanations, and justifications exist. It lives deeper, in instinct, in emotion, in subconscious response. And that is why a woman often cannot explain why she feels drawn to one man and completely indifferent to another, even when this second man looks better on paper, says the right words, gives more attention, and tries harder. Because attraction is felt, not decided. And that is exactly why you cannot argue someone into feeling something. You cannot negotiate desire. You cannot persuade chemistry. And you cannot use logic, gifts, favors, or over-explanation to create a feeling that does not already exist. So don't try to reason with attraction. Don't try to force it. Don't try to chase it down like a problem to be solved. Because the moment you do, you place yourself in a position of need, and need is never attractive. That is the silent rule of attraction that most men miss. And the moment you understand it, everything changes. Because if attraction is not logical, then your job is not to convince, explain, impress, or prove. Your job is to become the kind of man whose presence naturally creates a feeling. And that man is not trying. He is not performing. He is not auditioning for approval. He is not adjusting himself to fit what he thinks she wants. He is not overthinking every word, every text, every move. He is simply grounded, self-directed, and fully aligned with who he is. And that alignment is what triggers attraction on a subconscious level. Because female psychology responds to emotional certainty, not verbal persuasion. And when a man is certain in himself, when he moves with calm confidence, when his actions are consistent with his values, when his life is full and purposeful, that creates a signal that no psychology tricks can fake. Because it is real. And real always registers. So don't perform. Don't chase. Don't overextend. Don't try to impress. Be steady. Be intentional. Be relaxed. That is where attraction begins. Because the man who is constantly trying is broadcasting that he wants something from her, while the man who is simply living his truth is broadcasting that he already has a life he values. And that difference is everything. Because attraction grows in the presence of emotional safety and polarity, not pressure, not persuasion, not logic. And this is where many men misunderstand how to fall in love from a woman's perspective. Because love and desire do not start with effort. They start with feeling. And feelings are sparked by energy, by presence, by authenticity, not by words. So you must stop trying to create attraction and start allowing it. Because attraction either aligns or it doesn't. And that is not a failure. That is clarity. And clarity is power. Because when you understand that attraction is not logical, you stop taking rejection personally. You stop questioning your worth. You stop bending yourself out of shape to fit someone else's preferences. And instead, you become selective, calm, and grounded, which ironically makes you far more attractive. Because female psychology is deeply intuitive. It picks up on emotional states faster than words ever could. And a man who is calm in himself, who is not attached to outcomes, who is not desperate for validation, who does not need attraction to feel valuable, naturally creates intrigue. Because he is not trying to control the interaction. He is allowing it to unfold. And that is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks in attraction. The less you try to pull, the more space you create for her to lean in. Because attraction grows in space, not pressure. And that is why gifts, constant texting, excessive compliments, and over-availability often backfire. Not because they are bad actions, but because they are delivered from the wrong energy. An energy of wanting something in return. And female psychology senses that instantly. So don't focus on tactics. Focus on alignment. Don't ask how to make her feel something. Ask how to become someone who naturally evokes feeling. Because the man who lives his truth does not seek permission to be himself. He does not apologize for his standards. He does not over-explain his intentions. He does not rush emotional connection. He lets attraction develop at its own pace. And that patience signals strength, stability, and self-respect, which are deeply attractive traits. And this is where many men finally understand how to fall in love is not about pushing emotion, but about allowing resonance. Because when a woman aligns with who you truly are, attraction feels effortless. Conversations flow. Connection deepens naturally. And there is no confusion, no chasing, no emotional tug-of-war. Just mutual interest growing at its own rhythm. And if she does not align, that is not something to fix. That is something to accept. Because trying to force alignment only creates resistance. And resistance kills attraction every time. So be clear. Be grounded. Be authentic. That is not passive. That is powerful. Because the man who knows who he is does not need to convince anyone of his value. His life speaks for him. His energy speaks for him. His presence speaks for him. And that is why attraction is not logical. It is emotional recognition. It is subconscious alignment. It is a feeling that either happens or it doesn't. And your role is not to manipulate it, but to create the conditions where it can naturally emerge. By being calm, by being self-directed, by having standards, by living a life that excites you, and by letting go of the need to control outcomes. Because control is the opposite of attraction, and freedom is the soil where attraction grows. So don't argue with feelings. Don't chase validation. Don't perform for approval. Be the man who is rooted in himself. Because when you do, you no longer need psychology tricks to force attraction. You become the source of it. And that is the deepest truth about attraction, female psychology, and how to fall in love in a way that feels real, mutual, and lasting. 8. That's the standard. That's the boundary. That's the standard. That's the boundary. And before we go any further, you must understand what those words really mean, because a standard is not something you explain, and a boundary is not something you negotiate. A standard is how you live. A boundary is how you move. And right now, the biggest mistakes you're making are not loud or dramatic. They're subtle, quiet, and incredibly costly. You're over-explaining yourself. You're apologizing for things that never required an apology. You're asking for permission to take up space in conversations, in decisions, in your own life. And every time you do that, you shrink. Not just in her eyes, but in your own mind. That shrinking is felt instantly. A woman may not be able to explain it, but she senses it. Attraction fades not because you're a bad man, but because you're slowly erasing yourself. Don't do that. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. Stop handing out reasons for your existence. A high-value man does not narrate his worth. He lives it. He moves with intention. He speaks when there is something to say. Silence does not scare him. Disagreement does not threaten him. That calm certainty is masculine energy in its purest form, and it is one of the fastest ways to attract women without forcing anything. Let's be very clear about this. Over-explaining is not kindness. It's insecurity disguised as politeness. When you explain every decision, every feeling, every boundary, you're subconsciously asking, is this okay? And the moment you ask that question, you give your power away. Don't do that. Be clear instead. Make decisions. Stand by them. That is not arrogance. That is leadership over your own life. You must understand that women don't trust words nearly as much as they trust behavior. Female attraction responds to consistency, not convincing. When you say what you mean, do what you say, and don't wobble when challenged, something shifts. She may test you. She may push back. That's not a problem. That's information. A man who wants to attract women does not fear information. He uses it. If she doesn't like your decision, that's information. If she pulls away, that's clarity. If she disrespects you, that's a gift. Because now you know exactly where you stand, and clarity is always better than confusion. Don't react emotionally to that information. Don't argue. Don't lecture. Don't try to be understood. Simply observe. A high-value man does not chase agreement. He chooses alignment. And alignment cannot be forced. It can only be revealed. When you stop explaining yourself, you create space. Space for her to respond honestly. Space for the truth to show up. Space for attraction to either grow or fade naturally. And if it fades, you don't punish her. You don't resent her. You don't make her wrong. You simply recognize the mismatch and move accordingly. That movement is powerful. Walking away calmly, without bitterness, without drama, without the need to be right, signals deep self-respect. That quiet dignity is rare, and rarity is attractive. You must stop thinking that walking away is a loss. It's not. Staying where you are not respected is the real loss. Apologizing for your needs is the real loss. Shrinking to keep someone comfortable is the real loss. Masculine energy is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is grounded. It is steady. It says, "This is who I am. This is how I move. You are free to join me, or you are free to walk away." That freedom is magnetic. It allows a woman to choose you rather than feel managed or persuaded. And choice is where attraction lives. Here's the part most men miss. Self-respect is not a tactic. It's not something you turn on to get a reaction. It's a way of being. When you stop seeking approval, you naturally attract women who respect boundaries. When you stop over-explaining, you attract women who listen. When you stop apologizing unnecessarily, you attract women who feel safe in your certainty. That's how a high-value man operates. He doesn't chase interest. He creates conditions where interest can exist. And if it doesn't, he doesn't collapse. He continues forward. Don't confuse calm with passivity. Making decisions and standing by them is active. It requires courage. It requires discipline. It requires emotional control. When you say no and don't follow it with a paragraph, you are exercising strength. When you walk away without a speech, you are exercising restraint. When you let her respond however she responds, you are exercising trust in yourself. That is masculine energy in action. And it is deeply attractive because it communicates, without words, I am solid. I am stable. I will not abandon myself to keep someone else. If she responds positively, great. If she leans in, great. If she pulls away, also great. Because now you have truth instead of hope. And hope without evidence is what keeps men stuck for years. Don't live there. Be decisive. Be clear. Be respectful. That is how you attract women who are emotionally healthy and aligned with you. Not through pressure. Not through persuasion. Not through endless explaining. Understand this deeply. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live in integrity with yourself. When you honor yourself, the right people feel it. And the wrong people remove themselves. Both outcomes serve you. That is the standard. That is the boundary. And once you live this way, something remarkable happens. You become unforgettable, not because you tried to impress, but because you didn't abandon yourself, because you carried yourself with quiet dignity, because you chose self-respect over approval. That is what separates men who chase attraction from men who naturally attract women. And once you cross that line, you don't go back. All right, my friend, before we part ways, let me say this clearly and calmly. If you truly want a woman to desire you, the answer was never about tricks, chasing, or trying harder. It's about choosing yourself first. Stop shrinking. Stop performing. Stop building your life around the hope that someone else will validate you. Build your purpose. Build your standards. Build a life you're proud to wake up to. When you do that, attraction stops being something you force and starts becoming something that naturally shows up. My sincere advice to you is this. Don't live to be chosen. Live to be solid. Live to be respected by the man in the mirror. When you become whole, when your life feels full, people can feel it. Women can feel it. The world responds to it. Not because you changed your strategy, but because you changed how you see yourself. So take a breath. Trust the process. Focus on what you're building, not who you're trying to impress. And remember, real attraction begins the moment you stop begging for it. If this message spoke to you, subscribe now. More truth is coming, and you'll want to be here for what's next. Take care, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.